I think we're going to sort of be in agreement on this, but like ultimately disagree on the end game. Welcome to On Deadline, the Washington Examiner's political game show. I'm Christian Datoc.
And I'm Tiana Lowe, Doescher.
Each episode, we bring you the week's biggest political stories, deliver our takes, and at the end, you get to vote on a winner. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to your friends, and please, let us know in the comments which one of us did a better job. This week, we're starting above the fold, where we each get a minute to talk about the biggest story on our plate. Tiana, what's on your mind?
Joe Biden has spent his last half-century of political power trying to liberate his son from the consequences of his actions. So what would make his last full month in office any different? After months of promising that he would not give his son, Hunter Biden, a pardon, Joe Biden has reversed course, offering him the most sweeping presidential pardon since Ford pardoned Richard Nixon. He's pardoned not just for his convictions for tax and gun crimes, but for a sweeping 11-year period beginning in 2014 and ending on December 1st of this month. Why 2014? That's when he started on the board of Burisma Holdings. It's when his ex-wife found photos of him with hookers abroad, and it's also when he was discharged from the Navy for cocaine usage. There you have three of the biggest crimes that investigators were looking at: international sex trafficking allegations, bribery and FARA violations, and illegal drug usage. If Joe Biden stood for his family, he would stand. That's better than standing for nothing at all, which at least that will help Democrats sleep at night.
We heard from Joe Biden and Karine Jean-Pierre and basically everybody at the White House for months. Joe Biden is not going to pardon Hunter.
Have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes. I'm not going to do anything. I said I abide by the jury decision, and I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
Why doesn't President Biden just pardon him?
President, I've been very clear. The president's not going to pardon
And
his
one
son.
more.
It's still a no. It's still a no.
It will always be a no.
It's still a no. It will be a no. It is a no, and I don't have anything else to add. Will he pardon his son? No.
That's obviously out the window right now. But we do know Republicans are still looking at members of the Biden family. So do you think the president will pardon his brother, Jim Biden, who was also involved with those business dealings that Hunter got looped up in involving Burisma and others? And might he pardon himself? Because again, it doesn't look like Republicans plan on shelving these investigations into what they call the Biden crime family.
Yeah, I mean, so absolutely Jim Biden is getting that January 19th pardon. I'm sure Hunter was just irritatingly demanding throughout the Thanksgiving holiday, right? Because they were all holed up in Nantucket together. He probably was just berating him until he got the pardon. Jim Biden can wait the extra month. But look, the Supreme Court ruled that accepting a pardon is, in fact, a concession of guilt, right? Anyone can be given a pardon and you can reject it. You can say, I don't need the pardon. I didn't commit that crime. But Hunter Biden immediately submitted that pardon, thus accepting it, to the Delaware prosecutor's office to overturn that conviction by special counsel Weiss. That's an admission of guilt. And because Joe Biden did such a wide pardon, it's clear that it did have to do with the entire Biden family riding the Biden family name and profiting off of it. And one thing I can certainly say, I know Joe Biden misses his late son, Beau, for a million personal reasons, but pragmatically, Beau Biden was apparently the one that tried to get the rest of the family to stop being so flagrant in how they use the name. It is not a surprise that Beau dies and things get out of control with Hunter and Jim. Christian, what are you looking at?
Well, first it was Tulsi Gabbard, and now it's Mike Duggan. He's just the latest high-profile Democrat to up and leave the party. Duggan's a three-term mayor from Detroit, where he not only saw 11 consecutive balanced budgets at the city, but he's also helped Detroit usher in their lowest number of homicides since the 60s and have carjackings. But really, this is emblematic of a problem within the Democratic Party. We've talked about how after the Harris loss, there's going to be this power struggle. It looks like the progressives are winning that because you have moderates like Duggan, who is very much in the vein of Joe Biden, up and leaving the party. You also have to look over on Capitol Hill, where there is serious leadership shakeup. You have people like Ilhan Omar being elevated within the CPC. You've also, again, got questions about whether or not the party is going to be able to swing to the middle or will they push it further to the left. This is just the latest sign of the Democratic Civil War coming to fruition.
I mean, it does seem like a weird misread of the mandate. The results were not, the 2024 results were not indicative of voters upset because Democrats didn't go far enough to the left, right? Trump got his biggest gains in the cities, these cities that have been mismanaged by these uniformly Democratic governances. So how are they missing the fact that it's the brand that's toxic? It's not a lack of progressive policy.
Well, I think the answer to your question was right in there at the end of it. Mike Duggan clearly thinks this is the answer to the problem and that the brand is toxic. I didn't even mention he's running to replace Gretchen Whitmer as Michigan's governor. Again, Michigan was once viewed as like the bastion of the blue wall. Democrats lost in 2016, and Kamala Harris performed worse in 2024 than Hillary did when she lost to Trump. Again, I think you're going to see more and more of this until the 26 cycle kicks up in full steam. You're going to have the progressives taking over, commandeering the party, and you're going to have moderates saying, hey, maybe running as an independent isn't so bad after all.
Time for Yays or Nays, where we give our opinions of the news of the week. Sometimes we'll agree, other times we'll disagree.
Joe Biden will pardon Donald Trump's political enemies before he leaves office.
This one's tough. I'm going to say no on this. Why do you think yes?
This one is an easy yes for me. The fact that the sourcing is so widespread that Joe Biden has been like uniquely stingy with pardons, which is why the Hunter Biden one was such a big deal. And when you have all these outlets, and you and I know the sourcing, saying, yes, he will pardon Jim Comey, Liz Cheney, and Anthony Fauci. What an epic just smack in the face to his actual base, where Joe Biden campaigned on opposing the federal death penalty. He could commute those sentences.
Yeah.
He could pardon more nonviolent drug offenders. I mean, even if he wants to do like left-wing protesters that have records or whatnot. This makes sense because, especially if we saw like the legal tact in that really broad Hunter Biden pardon, it's just to obstruct the idea of an investigation going on at all. Do I think Donald Trump would use his political capital on the Cheneys? No, I think the Cheneys are going to be irrelevant come Inauguration Day. Fauci, while there will continue to be the investigation into the lab leak hypothesis and how much the NIH was funding that, because we know they were giving grants to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, that wouldn't make Fauci personally liable. But it's just a sign. It's a line in the sand for what Biden cares about. And it's himself, and it's Orange Man bad. And unfortunately for the liberals that deserve a functional Democratic Party, it's not anything else.
What you just outlined is, I think, pretty illustrative of a theory that's going around resistance Twitter right now. So I'm a little surprised you kind of bought in. I think the idea that Joe Biden could pardon Liz Cheney, James Comey, Anthony Fauci, Jamie Raskin, Adam Schiff, the list goes on, right? Trump has any number of enemies, is an absolute pipe dream cooked up by, the pink hat wearing protesters, right? This is a story about how Joe Biden has an opportunity to, stick it to Donald Trump one more time. Here's the thing. Joe Biden doesn't care about that anymore. He cares about his legacy. He already lost to Trump, through Harris losing essentially. He's ruined his legacy with Afghanistan, with the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas and Hezbollah. And again, he didn't pass nearly all of the legislative issues that he tried to usher in under this grand progressive umbrella. What he can do right now, though, and I've talked to Democratic strategists, I've talked to Republican strategists about this, he can pardon Donald Trump as sort of an olive branch extended to the nation and say, hey, we lost, but at the end of the day, we need to come together. And I did talk about how Donald Trump is an existential threat to democracy, but he's also in the halls of power now. So what can we do to move forward and get beyond how...
If he did that, what would he have actually believed? Would there have been any defining value that carried Joe Biden through his career other than just raw sociopathic self-interest if he did that? Because he campaigned on Donald Trump is Hitler, democracy is at stake, this would be the last election if I won, I will never pardon my son, I'm the honest one, he's the liar. And if you fold all five, and then not only is Donald Trump not Hitler, but I'm going to give him a pardon, so he's not even a criminal too, there is nothing that the last 4 years of Democratic governance has stood for.
Yeah, that's true. And again, you did a good job of addressing my hypothetical scenario. But I'm going to give you a much more practical scenario. And you sort of hit at this point before. Joe Biden doesn't care about anything. He's on his way out. Why would he help these people? He's not going to do anything, again, to make himself look like an even worse president than he already is. He's not going to pardon people for hypothetical, preemptive charges that haven't even been offered by the Trump team yet. Again, this is just a guy who's checked out in senioritis. He's moving on to his classes that he's got to go teach at the University of Pennsylvania and ice cream scoops at Rehoboth Beach. I don't expect him to pardon these people. This is hogwash. Now it's time for us to fill in the blank.
Pete Hegseth's nomination will blank in the Senate confirmation process.
I think we're going to sort of be in agreement on this, but ultimately disagree on the end game. So I'm going to say Pete Hegseth's nomination will go through the Senate and, end in a confirmation for a number of reasons. One, Pete Hegseth is dealing with all of these allegations right now, which I don't mean to make light of at all. There was the sexual assault allegation, which has been walked back. There have been concerns about his drinking, which he has addressed. He said he wouldn't drink at all if confirmed to do the job. And there's also concerns about his religious beliefs. But when I'm talking to people in Trump world, one, they're confident that he will be able to pull enough Democratic senators to be confirmed. But two, they're also sort of looking at him as a shield for some of these more controversial nominees, be they RFK, be they Tulsi Gabbard. I think Hegseth will make it through. And again, he's up on the Capitol Hill right now. He's meeting with senators. Joni Ernst could be a serious problem. She, again, is a rape survivor herself, and the sexual assault claims against Hegseth could rear their head in that scenario. But ultimately, I expect him to go through with this, mostly because of how confident the Trump people sound behind the scenes. They don't always sound super confident, but in this scenario, they are solid on their man.
I think it will make it to confirmation in the Senate, but more importantly, it will make it to a vote. And that's why it will make it to confirmation.
Yeah.
Republicans in the Senate and Democrats voted 93-2 for Lloyd Austin. He presided over the most disastrous withdrawal of a waste of trillions of dollars in the form of Afghanistan, was gone for weeks and did not tell the commander-in-chief when he was in surgery for prostate cancer. That alone means that this will go to the vote, and that's why these senators that voted yes for Lloyd Austin, they will and should be named and shamed if they refuse to vote for Pete Hegseth. And here's why. Pete Hegseth, unlike Lloyd Austin, who oversaw the disaster of Afghanistan, he served in Afghanistan, served in Iraq, served in Gitmo, double Bronze Star, went to Harvard, went to Princeton. But beyond that, this is a textbook character assassination. They started off with a truly horrifying claim, right? Like rape in cold blood of a blackout drunk woman. Then they released the police report, which I think, if anything, was exculpatory because the accuser's husband corroborates Pete's story, not his wife's. And she's never come forward and never named herself. And I think that's it's crucial in order to take these allegations seriously in the court of public opinion. Sure, we don't need to use a criminal trial standard, but we should have some compelling evidence. And I think part of that is someone who comes forward with their name so their story can be fact-checked. But the fact that Monterey police alone saw the rape kit, saw no talk screen, none of the witnesses confirming her story. So we move from this pretty horrific rape allegation, I would say it's discredited, then to he harassed his coworkers. Everyone who's worked with him has come out and said this guy is one of the nicest people ever. I've only heard lovely things about Pete Hegseth. Then it moves to he has an alcohol problem, and everyone's pointing to the fact he said that he wouldn't drink, but it's the same thing as when you are in a combat position and when you are basically on call you also don't drink then, because if you are on call and you've had a couple beers in a not problematic way otherwise, but you have to go pick up a machine gun, of course you don't drink during those. I don't think that's a sign of guilt or anything.
If you're in Iraq and Afghanistan in a combat zone, you're not allowed to drink. That's how I view this role as Secretary of Defense, is that I'm not going to have a drink at all. And it's not hard for me because it's not a problem for me. But I need to make sure the senators and the troops and President Trump and everybody else knows when you call me 24/7, you're getting fully dialed in, Pete.
This just feels like the textbook goalpost shifting of a smear. And look, I think there's a lot of reason to find fault with maybe some of Trump's nominees. I could see even from an ideological perspective if the more hawkish senators challenging Tulsi Gabbard. But we can't tank people's lives, let alone their careers, over something that feels pretty flagrantly, duplicitous.
I think the fact that Hegseth's wife is making the rounds with him on Capitol Hill, means a lot. Again, especially when you're confronting that first sexual assault allegation. I think there's another factor here, though. There's going to be a ton of Fox News viewers calling their senators, telling them, hey, we love the Fox and Friends guy. You need to confirm him. I don't think we should, underestimate how much that could have a sway when you've got Trump on the other side, when they're, sandwiching these senators who are on the fence.
And on to our last laugh, where we discuss some of the lighter news of the week. And I'm so excited about this. I don't know if DOGE is actually going to be able to, cancel government corruption and waste. I hope they do. But one thing they could do, make daylight savings time permanent.
Just when we thought politics couldn't get more controversial, they come and drop a bomb like this on us. I mean, Twitter was having a field day when this was first breached. But I don't want to laugh at DOGE too much, because they have put some actual numbers out there about...
Wait, I'm very pro-DOGE.
Yeah, it's about essentially $500 billion they could cut. I'm going to read them off real fast. VA healthcare, $119 billion. The NIH, $47 billion. Pell Grants, $22 billion. Head Start, $12 billion. The FBI, $11 billion. Federal prisons, $8 billion. And here's the kicker, and the reason that I think Elon Musk is really involved in this from the first place. The SEC could save the United States $2 billion if it's eliminated. We know Elon's had a lot of trouble with the SEC over the years. This kind of feels like a little bit of 5D chess from him, no?
It's smart. I'll take it. If we could just take the line item of the TSA, cross it out, maybe also the ATF. Could we just take out the entire thing?
The world might be a happier place.
Yeah.
Speaking of other places in the world, Joe Biden was not in D.C. this week when he announced the fact that Hunter Biden was being pardoned. He was on a plane flying to Angola for that long-awaited trip to Africa. Now, Joe Biden, I think, sort of illustrated his presidency in a nutshell over these 4 days. He made history by being the first sitting president to visit Angola. He announced $1 billion in humanitarian aid for people who are suffering from drought and food insecurity. He made new commitments to the Libido Corridor, which is a transnational railroad in Africa. But perhaps more important than all of that, he fell asleep at a meeting.
Oh, Joe. I mean, we've all wanted to fall asleep during meetings.
I have.
But you leave and you go splash cold water on your face. Go home. Go home. Kamala Harris should be president. She should be president right now, because apparently a president only has 10 minutes to decide if they strike back in a nuclear emergency. And I do not believe that man, if you woke him up from that nap, would be able to be cognizant. But speaking of Kamala Harris, she was clearly enjoying herself during Thanksgiving week.
Yeah, this one was tough because, again, Harris has been out of the limelight for basically the last month. The Democrats thought it would be a great idea to put out sort of a pump-up video featuring Kamala Harris at some of her most word salady.
I just have to remind you, don't you ever let anybody take your power from you. You have the same power that you did before November 5th.
One of the things I don't understand about Democrats, why does everything have to feel like a therapy session? When Donald Trump was shot, his response was fight, fight, fight. Why is it you're gonna be okay? I don't need a politician to tell me I'm gonna be okay. I need you to tell me how you're gonna cut my taxes. It's just a weird video, and we've all seen her in person. She's such a good-looking person, especially when you consider the fact the woman is 60 and looks like she's 42 years old.
Yeah.
You have to try to make her look not gorgeous. Who let this go out? Who greenlit this video?
Probably a staffer at the DNC who has since been fired or will be let go when the contracts run out in January. But I think we're being a little too hard on Kamala, because let's be honest, what she did is what the young kids are calling crashing out. It happens when you go through a breakup or suffer some type of loss, and everyone deals with it in their own special way. If you're Kamala Harris, you apparently deal with it by getting back up on the horse before you're ready, probably, and setting your sights on that California gubernatorial race in 2 years.
I don't know. I guess it's better than getting bangs. Right? Isn't that like one of the forms of cashing out? Getting a tattoo, getting bangs,
There you
texting
go.
your ex.
There you go.
Do the video, I guess.
Well, that's all the time we've got for this week. Don't forget to let us know in the comments who you think won this week's clash. I'm Christian Datoc.
And I'm Tiana Lowe Doescher.
You can catch more of our reporting at washingtonexaminer.com, and we'll see you next week.